He never asked for much, just a seat at the table, a quiet lunch, and a chance to breathe without being watched. For weeks, maybe months, no one noticed the quiet boy with the frayed backpack sitting at the far end of Lincoln High's cafeteria. But every day, like clockwork, he opened that lunchbox his mother packed with care, only for it to be snatched away by the same group of boys who thought their father's money made them kings. They laughed, mocked, and shoved him aside. His name, Elijah Thompson. But to them, he was invisible, until he wasn't. Elijah's lunches weren't just meals, they were love letters from his mother. A single mom, working 2 jobs, she woke before dawn to cook for him. Her oxtail stew, fried plantains, peanut butter pancakes, every bite a symbol of sacrifice. And every day that food ended up in the hands of Chase Morgan and his crew. Sons of senators, bankers, and judges. Boys who ruled the school like it was theirs by birthright. "What's a ghetto lunch like that doing here anyway?" they'd sneer. And Elijah, jaw tight, said nothing. Not yet. They called him soft, weak, a charity case. But what they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that Elijah had been raised to fight battles with his mind, not his fists. Still, he remembered every stolen lunch, every insult, every bruise on his shoulder from being shoved into lockers. The breaking point came on a Thursday. It wasn't the stolen food, it was the note. A small post-it from his mother, tucked under a sandwich. "I'm proud of you. Stay strong. Love, Mom." They crumpled it, laughed, tossed it in the trash. That's when Elijah's silence turned into strategy. He didn't tell anyone, not a teacher, not the principal. He just watched, studied them. Chase liked to talk big but didn't back up his grades. His father was on the school board covering up everything. Tyrone, the loudest one, had a temper and a phone full of messages he shouldn't be sending during school hours. Elijah started documenting, quietly. He took screenshots, videos. He downloaded conversations from open devices left unattended in the computer lab. He learned fast. Cybersecurity was his hidden talent, and justice was his goal. One by one, he collected receipts. Not just bullying, drug use, cheating, threatening texts. Even a hidden video of Chase mocking a disabled student on a private Snapchat story. Elijah compiled it all into one digital time bomb. He called it Project Regret. But that wasn't the end game. No, Elijah was smarter than that. He wanted justice to sting. So he waited for the school's biggest event of the year, Founders Day. A day when parents, press, donors, and district officials flooded the school. A day when reputations mattered most. Elijah hacked the AV system during the opening assembly. And right as Chase's father stepped up to the microphone to deliver his keynote, in horror and silence, as videos of bullying, theft, bigotry, and abuse played across the screen. The auditorium echoed with gasps. Teachers turned to look at their star students, now exposed. Chase froze. His father shouted. Tyrone bolted for the exit. But the damage was done. By the time the final clip ended, Elijah stepped onto the stage. Not to gloat, but to speak. Calm, clear, and firm. For months, I ate in silence while they stole from me. But I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for every student who was too afraid to speak. For every lunch taken, every voice silenced. The room erupted. Some clapped. Others cried. Elijah walked off the stage without looking back. Within 48 hours, the story made local headlines. Lincoln High bullies exposed in viral video. Investigations were launched. Chase's father was removed from the school board pending inquiry. Tyrone's scholarship was revoked. Parents who once turned a blind eye now demanded accountability. And Elijah? He was offered a full scholarship by a tech foundation, impressed by his courage and his coding skills. He didn't want fame, just fairness. And for the first time in years, he opened his lunchbox in peace. But this isn't where the story ends, because while Elijah stood tall, someone else was watching. Someone whose secrets he hadn't uncovered yet. A figure who'd benefited from the silence, who now saw Elijah as a threat. A week after the assembly, Elijah received an unmarked envelope in his locker. No return address. Just a USB stick and a note. "You think you've won, but you don't know how deep this goes." He plugged it into his laptop, and what he saw made his hands tremble. The screen flickered. Security footage from inside the principal's office. Conversations. Payoffs. A list of names. Not just students, teachers, administrators, even board members, and at the bottom a folder labeled The Arrangement. Elijah had started a fire, but now he realized he was standing in the middle of a much bigger blaze. Justice was served, but the war had only just begun. Will Elijah take on the system, or will the system silence him before he uncovers the truth? Elijah Thompson thought it was over, thought the worst was behind him. He had exposed the bullies, turned the tables in front of the entire school, and walked away with his dignity and his mother's proud tears. But when he plugged in that USB drive, everything changed. What stared back at him from the flickering screen wasn't just corruption, it was a web of secrets buried so deep it made the cafeteria bullies look like pawns. Inside that folder titled The Arrangement, Elijah found surveillance clips recorded from hidden cameras, angles no student should have had access to. The principal, Mr. Danvers, meeting with Chase Morgan's father. Conversations about keeping incidents quiet for the good of the school's image. Discussions about pressuring teachers to adjust grades. A list of students whose disciplinary records had been altered or erased entirely. Most of them from wealthy families. A digital paper trail of payments disguised as donations. And then Elijah saw it. His own name, next to a red line, next to the words, "Keep monitored, potential disruptor." He sat frozen. All this time, it wasn't just the students, it was the system. The school wasn't broken by accident, it was designed to protect the powerful. And he had just punched a hole in the center of it. Now they were watching him. The next day, things shifted. The same teachers who praised him now avoided eye contact. His favorite counselor, Ms. Raymond, had been placed on sudden leave. The IT room, where Elijah spent lunch, was locked for repairs, and someone had keyed his mother's car in the school parking lot. But Elijah didn't flinch. He went home, backed up the files, encrypted them, and created multiple aliases online. He began building a case, not for the news this time, but for the federal authorities. But the deeper he dug, the more dangerous it became. Because the arrangement wasn't just limited to the school. He uncovered correspondence from school officials to local law enforcement, favors traded, incidents buried. One file showed a quiet expulsion of a student named Jordan Miller 3 years prior, after he reported abuse. His record was wiped, his name removed from school databases. But Elijah found him. He tracked Jordan down through an alumni forum. What he heard shook him. Jordan had caught Chase's crew assaulting a student and went to the authorities. Within weeks, he was expelled for violating privacy by recording the incident. His parents were silenced with threats of a defamation suit. Elijah now knew this wasn't a few bad apples. This was a tree with rotting roots, and every move he made now came with a price. One night, Elijah returned home to find the front door slightly ajar. His heart stopped. Inside, nothing looked broken, but his laptop was gone. Not the TV, not the jewelry box, just his laptop and a folder of documents. The USB was safe. It had never left his neck. But this was a message. "We're in your home now." The next day, a mysterious email arrived. "Drop it, or we drop you." No signature, just a gif of a ticking clock. Elijah knew what he had to do. He went dark. No phone, no internet, just burner laptops and offline files. He met with Jordan again, this time with evidence. Together, they reached out to a journalist from an independent investigative network, someone who couldn't be bought. A woman named Valerie Knox, known for bringing down 2 corrupt superintendents and an entire charter school chain. Valerie took the bait. She met Elijah in a quiet park, asked the hard questions, tested his evidence, and then whispered, "You're sitting on a bomb, but it needs to be detonated right." For 3 weeks, they worked in silence. Late nights, paranoia, tracking every possible leak. Valerie started connecting dots across counties. Elijah uncovered links between school board members and contractors who'd received bloated payments. But then, the silence broke. A breaking story aired on the local news. Anonymous whistleblower uncovers widespread corruption in Lincoln High School District. The story exploded. Parents demanded answers. The superintendent called an emergency press conference. But Elijah wasn't done, because in that press conference, he saw someone new. A man sitting quietly in the second row. Sharp suit, cold stare. He wasn't press. He wasn't a parent. Elijah snapped a photo, ran it through online tools. Nothing. No name, no history. Just a trail of payments tied to shell companies linked back to school board members. Valerie confirmed his fear. This goes beyond education. You've stumbled into a laundering network. And just when things seemed to peak, Valerie disappeared. No calls, no emails, her office empty, her files gone. Elijah's messages bounced back. He was alone again. That night, Elijah found an envelope taped to his front door. It wasn't threatening this time. It was worse. Inside, Valerie's press badge, and a note written in red pen. "You've made your move. Now it's our turn. Tick, tock." He knew then he had a choice. Run or go all in. Elijah stared at the glowing screen of his backup drive, the final piece of evidence he hadn't released yet. A video that implicated a state senator, Chase's uncle, in financial misconduct tied to the school construction funds. He reached for the upload button, but just as he clicked, the lights went out. A black SUV rolled slowly into the street, a knock at the door, and Elijah, heart-pounding, whispered one word under his breath. "They're here." If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Someone out there needs to hear this, because every underdog deserves a voice, and sometimes that voice becomes the spark that brings down an empire.